have to change the key on it a little bit for my voice, but that's okay. It's a start. And this week I hope to get the copy machine unstuck so we can have an overhead for it. Father God, where do you want us to go today? You know, Lord, that it has been a week. There's been much happen this week. There's been many things that have been distractions. But you, Lord, are glorious, and you are over and above all that could distract us from you. You are over and above everything. Father, we come to this place to meet with you. We don't come just to gather to have a party. We don't come for ourselves. We benefit, but we come because we want to meet with you. Open up the sky. And as I told the group last night in Life Recovery, the way I view worship is this. It's prayers put to music. So if you don't know how to pray, start singing a song. And this is our prayer today. Our beloved Father. Our beloved Father, please come down and meet us. We are waiting for your touch. Open up the heavens, shower down your blessing. We respond to your great love. Our beloved Father. Our beloved Father, please 40 days. And there were 10 days left. And they knew that Yeshua had been fulfilling the festivals. And I could just see them in that upper room going, Father, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen? You said, wait here, Jesus. Yeshua said to wait here in this upper room. Tarry in Jerusalem, and all power will be given unto you in heaven and in earth. Tarry in Jerusalem. And I could just see them waiting. Tarrying in Jerusalem. Tarrying in Jerusalem. Going, this is not going to be a normal Shavuot. This Pentecost is going to be different. It isn't going to be the same. Something's happening, and we're going to wait. We're going to wait. We won't be satisfied with anything ordinary. We won't be satisfied at all. We won't be satisfied with anything ordinary. We won't be satisfied at all. The sky opened. Open up the sky, fall down like rain. We don't want blessings, we want you. Open up the sky, fall down like fire. We don't want anything but you. Open up the sky, fall down like rain. We don't want blessings, we want you. Open up the sky, fall down like fire. We don't want anything but you. And as we stand in that place, in the days of preparation, which is where we are now, in the count. The Shavuot is not going to be the same, is it, Lord? Oh, what you're going to do on Pentecost. We would be ready. This is the air I breathe. This is the air I breathe. Your holy presence. my daily bread. Your very word spoken to me, and I'm desperate for you, and I'm lost without you, and I'm desperate for you, and I'm lost without you. I'm desperate for you. I'm lost without you. We would all become desperate for him. Shmer Israel, keeper of the flock, keeper of the flock of Israel. Shomer Israel, keeper of the flock, keeper of the flock of Israel. Goel Israel, redeemer of us all, redeemer, Prince of Peace, Sar Shalom. Goel Israel, redeemer of us all, redeemer, Prince of Peace, Sar Shalom. Shalom, Israel, Adonai, Elohim. Shalom, Israel, Adonai, El Shaddai. Zud Israel, Adon Yeshuati. Let us praise your holy name. Zud Israel, Adon Yeshuati. Let us praise your holy name. Melech Israel, King above all kings, let your kingdom reign. Adonai, Melech Israel, King above all kings, let your kingdom reign. Adonai, Shema Israel, Adonai, Elohim. Shema Israel, Adonai, El Shaddai. Shema Israel, Adonai, Elohim. Shema Israel, Adonai, El Shaddai. In Hebrew, the term Shema, the words "hear," are not just a call to hear the words. It doesn't say just "Hear, Israel, the Lord your God is one." It says hear and respond. Because to hear means to understand. And there's no hearing without a response. When God calls your name, you're expected to respond. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohai. Shema Yisrael, Adonai El Shaddai. Shemed Israel, keeper of the flock of Israel. Sorry. Shemed Israel, keeper of the flock of Israel. Goel Israel, redeemer of us all, redeemer, prince of peace, our shalom. Goel Israel, redeemer of us all, redeemer, prince of peace, our shalom. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohai. Shema Yisrael, Adonai El Shaddai. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohai. Shema Yisrael, Adonai El Shaddai. Jeannie, you have your shofar with you? Okay. I see us doing the shofar a little differently today. I don't understand it, but I'm going to do what I'm seeing. So Craig, I'm going to have you take the shofar you usually blow and go over to that side by the Torah. Jane, I'm going to have you blow from the back door, which is center. And I'm going to blow from this side. I want us to, Center or out? Center. So we're kind of blowing from the corners of the room, in a sense. I see us doing a round robin first and then all together. Okay. I'll start. I'll go to you and then to you. Okay. Is that clockwise or counterclockwise?
Clockwise.
Clockwise, okay.
That's good. Are you laying on your back or?
That's part of why I never get that. Okay, so we're going clockwise today. Oh, that makes sense. And all together.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Hold on.
Hold on.
We need to stand for the Shema. Let me get my covering. Sorry. Okay.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one.
Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam.
Blessed be the name of the glory of his kingdom, forever and ever.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך.
You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might.
והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך.
And these words which I command you today shall be upon your heart.
ושיננתם לבניך ודברת בם בפשטך בפתך ובלכתך ולרך ובשכבך ובקמך.
You shall teach them thoroughly to your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk on the road, when you lie down, and when you rise.
וקשרתם לעלות על ידיך והיו לתותפות בין עיניך.
You shall bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for a reminder between your eyes.
וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and upon your gate. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirshanu v'toratcha v'natan lanu et or hachaim v'Yeshua mishachenu sar hashalom. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with your Torah and has given us the light of life, Jesus our Messiah, the Prince of Peace. Our God is an awesome God. That's not where I'm headed. This is a song I did last night. You probably know the first verse. Crown him with many crowns, the Lamb upon his throne. Our God, the heavenly anthem drowns all music but its own. Awake, my soul, and sing of him who died am a sinful man, but I'm covered by the blood of the Lamb, and now I found the greatest love of all is mine, since you laid down your life, the greatest sacrifice. Majesty, your grace has found me just as I am, empty-handed but alive in your hands. Majesty, forever I am changed by your love, in the presence of your majesty. Here I am, humbled by the love that you give, forgiven so that I can forgive. Here I stand, knowing that I'm your desire. I am sanctified by glory and fire, and now I've found the greatest love of all is mine, since you laid down your life, the greatest sacrifice. Majesty, your grace has found me just as I am, empty-handed but alive in your hands. Majesty, forever I am changed by your love, in the presence of your majesty. Majesty, oh majesty, your grace has found me just as I am, empty-handed but alive in your hands. Majesty, forever I am changed by your love, in the presence of your majesty. Your majesty, your majesty, it's your majesty. Just keep hearing the word, yes, your majesty. Yes, your majesty. We will bow before your throne. You are our majesty. It isn't just a word that's used to say how great and awesome you are, but to declare our dependence on you and our loyalty to you. The one who loves us just as we are and bids us come just as you are, and then loves us so much. You love us so much you won't let us stay the way we are. We come to you with empty hands, and you fill our hands. We come to you with our sin and our grief, and you give us joy, and you give us purity, and you give us holiness. Majesty, worship his majesty. Unto Jesus be all glory, honor, and praise. Majesty, King HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah. We're not going to get hung up on whether we're saying his name in English or in Spanish. Jesus. Jesus in Spanish. Yeshua is the Hebrew. The name gets changed over the generations, over the centuries, in terms of the way it's pronounced. But I know that the enemy knows who we're talking about. And when we say the name Jesus, there's power in the name, just as there's power in the name Yeshua. There is power because it's who he is that we are speaking to and about. It's not how we pronounce the name. But it is the fact that we are calling on the name of the only begotten Son of the Father, full of grace and truth, the coming King, who was and is to come, our Messiah. Today's Torah reading is a finishing of the book of Leviticus. It is a finishing of the declaration of kingdom behavior, kingdom law, kingdom rule. Do we want to know what the kingdom will be like? What it's supposed to be like? Your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. He's told us how kingdom is supposed to operate. We'll finish the book of Leviticus today.
Leviticus chapter 25, beginning in verse 1. The Lord then spoke to Moses at Mount Sinai, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you come into the land which I shall give you, then the land shall have a Sabbath to the Lord. 6 years you shall sow your field, and 6 years you shall prune your vineyard and gather in its crop. But during the 7th year the land shall have a Sabbath rest, a Sabbath to the Lord. You shall not sow your field nor prune your vineyard. Your harvests after growth you shall not reap, and your grapes of untrimmed vines you shall not gather. The land shall have a sabbatical year. And all of you shall have the Sabbath products of the land for food, yourselves, and for your male and your female slaves, and your hired man and your foreign resident, those who live as aliens with you. Even your cattle and the animals that are in your land shall have all its crops to eat. You are also to count off 7 Sabbaths of years for yourself, 7 times 7 years, so that you have the time of the 7 Sabbaths of years, namely 49 years. You shall then sound a ram's horn abroad on the 10th day of the 7th month. On the day of atonement you shall sound a horn all through your land. You shall thus consecrate the 50th year and proclaim a release throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you, and each of you shall return to his own property, and each of you shall return to his family. You shall have the 50th year as a jubilee. You shall not sow nor reap its aftergrowth, nor gather in from its untrimmed vines. For it is a jubilee. It shall be holy to you. You shall eat its crops out of the field. On this year of Jubilee, each of you shall return to his own property. If you make a sale, moreover, to your friend, or buy from your friend's hand, you shall not wrong one another. Corresponding to the number of years after the Jubilee, you shall buy from your friend. He is to sell to you according to the number of years of crops. In proportion to the extent of the years, you shall increase its price, and in proportion to the fewness of the years, you shall diminish its price. For it is a number of crops he is selling to you. You shall not wrong one another, but you shall fear your God, for I am the Lord your God. You shall thus observe my statutes and keep my judgments so as to carry them out, that you may live securely in the land. Then the land will yield its produce so that you can eat your fill and live securely on it. But if you say, what are we going to eat on the 7th year if we do not sow or gather in our crops? Then I will so order my blessing for you in the 6th year that it will bring forth the crop for 3 years. When you are sowing the 8th year, you can still eat old things from the crop, eating the old until the 9th year when its crop comes in. The land, moreover, shall not be sold permanently, for the land is mine, for you are but aliens and sojourners with me. Thus, for every piece of your property you are to provide for the redemption of the land. If a fellow countryman of yours becomes so poor he has to sell part of his property, then his nearest kinsman is to come and buy back what his relative has sold. Or in case a man has no kinsman, but so recovers his means as to find sufficient for its redemption, then he shall calculate the years since its sale and refund the balance to the man to whom he sold it and return to his property. But if he has not found sufficient means to get it back for himself, then what he has sold shall remain in the hands of its purchaser until the year of Jubilee. But at the Jubilee it shall revert, that he may return to his property. Likewise, if a man sells a dwelling house in a walled city, then his redemption right remains valid until a full year from its sale. His right of redemption lasts a full year. But if it is not bought back for him within the space of a full year, then the house that is in the walled city passes permanently to its purchaser throughout his generations. It does not revert in the Jubilee. The houses of the villagers, however, which have no surrounding wall, shall be considered as open fields. They have redemption rights and revert in the Jubilee. As for the cities of the Levites have a permanent right of redemption for the houses of the cities, which are their possession. What therefore belongs to the Levites may be redeemed, and a house sale in the city of this possession reverts to the Jubilee. For the houses of the cities of the Levites are their possession among the sons of Israel. But pasture fields of their cities shall not be sold, for that is their perpetual possession. Now in case a countryman of yours becomes poor and his means with regard to you falter, then you are to sustain him like a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with you. Do not take usurious interest from him, but revere your God, that your countrymen may live with you. You shall not give him your silver at interest, nor your food for gain. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. And if a countryman of yours becomes so poor with regard to you that he sells himself to you, you shall not subject him to a slave's service. He shall be with you as a hired man, as if he were a sojourner with you, until the year of Jubilee. He shall then go out from you, he and his sons with him. He shall go back to his family, that he may return to the property of his forefathers. For they are my servants, whom I brought out from the land of Egypt. They are not to be sold in a slave sale. You shall not rule over him with severity, but are to revere your God. As for your male and female slaves whom you may have, you may acquire male and female slaves from the pagan nations that are around you. Then, too, it is out of the sons of the sojourners who live as aliens among you that you may gain acquisition, and out of the families who are with you, whom they will have produced in your land, they also may become your possession. You may even bequeath them to your sons after you to receive as a possession. You can use them as permanent slaves, but in respect to your countrymen, the sons of Israel, you shall not rule with severity over one another. Now if the means of a stranger or of a sojourner with you becomes sufficient, and a countryman of yours becomes so poor with regard to him as to sell himself to a stranger who is sojourning with you, or to the descendants of a stranger's family, then he shall have redemption right after he has been sold. One of his brothers may redeem him, or his uncle's son may redeem him, or one of his blood relatives from his family may redeem him, or if he prospers, he may redeem himself. He then, with his purchaser, shall calculate from the year when he sold himself to him to the year of Jubilee, and the price of his sake shall be corresponding to the number of years. It is like the days of a hired man that he shall be with him. If there are still many years, he shall refund part of the purchase price in a proportion for them for his own redemption. And if few years remain until the year of Jubilee, he shall so calculate with him. In proportion to his years, he is to refund the amount for his redemption. Like a man hired year by year, he shall be with them. He shall not rule over him in severity in your sight. Even if he is not redeemed by these means, he shall still go out in the year of Jubilee, he and his sons with him. For the sons of Israel are my servants. They are my servants whom I brought out from the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. You shall not make for yourselves idols, nor shall you set up for yourselves an image or a sacred pillar, nor shall you place a figured stone in your land to bow down to it, for I am the Lord your God. You shall keep my Sabbaths and reverence my sanctuary. I am the Lord. If you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments so as to carry them out, then I shall give you rains in their season, so that the land will yield its produce and the trees of the field will bear their fruit. Indeed, your threshing will last for you until grape gathering, and grape gathering will last until sowing time. Thus you will eat your food to the full and live securely in your land. I shall also grant you peace in the land, so that you may lie down with no one making you tremble. I shall also eliminate harmful beasts from the land, and no sword will pass through your land. But if you will chase your enemies, they will fall before you by the sword. 5 of you will chase 100, and 100 of you will chase 10,000, and your enemies will fall before you by the sword. So I will turn toward you and make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will confirm my covenant with you. And you will eat the old supply and clear out the old because of the new. Moreover, I will make my dwelling among you, and my soul will not reject you. I will also walk among you and be your God, and you shall be my people. I am the Lord your God, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt, so that you should not be their slaves, and I broke the bars of your yoke and made you walk erect. But if you do not obey me and do not carry out all these commandments, if instead you reject my statutes, and if your soul abhors my ordinances so as not to carry out all my commandments, and so break my covenant, I, in turn, will do this to you. I will appoint over you a sudden terror, consumption and fever that shall waste away the eyes and cause the soul to pine away. Also you shall sow your seed uselessly, for your enemy shall eat it up. And I will set my face against you, so that you shall be struck down before your enemies, and those who hate you shall rule over you, and you shall flee when no one is pursuing you. If also after these things you do not obey me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sins. And I will also break down your pride of power. I will also make your sky like iron and your earth like bronze. And your strength shall be spent uselessly, for your land shall not yield its produce, and the trees of the land shall not yield their fruit. If then you act with hostility against me and are unwilling to obey me, I will increase the plague on you 7 times according to your sins. And I will let loose among you the beasts of the field, which shall bereave you of your children, and destroy your cattle and reduce your number, so that your roads lie deserted. And if by these things you are not turned to me, but act with hostility toward me, then I will act with hostility against you, and I, even I, will strike you 7 times for your sins. I will also bring upon you a sword which will execute vengeance for the covenant, and when you gather together into your cities, I will send pestilence among you, so that you shall be delivered into enemy hands. When I break your staff of bread, 10 women will bake your bread in one oven, and they will bring back your bread in rationed amounts, so that you will eat and not be satisfied. Yet in spite of this you do not obey me, but act with hostility against me, then I will act with wrathful hostility against you, and I, even I, will punish you 7 times for your sins. Further, you shall eat the flesh of your sons, and the flesh of your daughters you shall eat. I then will destroy your high places and cut down your incense altars and heap your remains on the remains of your idols, for my soul shall abhor you. I will lay waste your cities as well, and I will make your sanctuaries desolate, and I will not smell your soothing aromas. And I will make the land desolate, so that your enemies who settle it shall be appalled over it. You, however, I will scatter among the nations, and will draw out a sword after you, as your land becomes desolate and your cities become waste. Then the land will enjoy its Sabbaths all the days of the desolation, while you are in your enemy's land. Then the land will rest and enjoy its Sabbaths. All the days of its desolation it will observe the rest, which it did not observe on your Sabbaths while you were living on it. As for those of you who may be left, I will also bring weakness into their hearts into the lands of their enemies, and the sound of a driven leaf will chase them, and even when no one is pursuing, they will flee as though from the sword, and they will fall. They will therefore stumble over each other as if running from the sword, although no one is pursuing, and you will have no strength to stand up before your enemies. But you will perish among the nations, and your enemy's land will consume you. So those of you who may be left will rot away because of the iniquity, because of their iniquity in the hands of your enemies, and also because of the iniquities of their forefathers, they will rot away with them. If they confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their forefathers in their unfaithfulness, which they committed against me, and also in their acting with hostility against me, I also was acting with hostility against them to bring them into the land of their enemies, or if their uncircumcised heart becomes humbled, so that they can then make amends for their iniquity, then I will remember my covenant with Jacob, and I will remember also my covenant with Isaac, and my covenant with Abraham as well. And I will remember the land, for the land shall be abandoned by them, and shall make up for its Sabbaths while it is made desolate without them. They, meanwhile, shall be making amends for their iniquity, because they rejected my ordinances, and their soul abhorred my statutes. Yet in spite of this, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not reject them, nor will I so abhor them as to destroy them, breaking my covenant with them, for I am the Lord their God. But I will remember them for the covenant with their ancestors, whom I brought up out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the nations, that I might be their God. I am the Lord. These are the statutes and ordinances and laws which the Lord established between himself and the sons of Israel through Moses at Mount Sinai. Again the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, When a man makes a difficult vow, he shall be valued according to your valuation of persons belonging to the Lord. If your valuation is of the male from 20 years to even to 60 years old, then your valuation shall be 50 shekels of silver after the shekel of the sanctuary. Or if it is a female, then your valuation shall be 30 shekels. And if it be from 5 years even to 20 years old, then your valuation for the male shall be 20 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. But if they are from a month even up to 5 years old, then your valuation shall be 5 shekels of silver for the male, and for the female your valuation shall be 3 shekels of silver. And if they are from 60 years old and upward, if it is a male, then your valuation shall be 15 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. But if he is poorer than your valuation, then he shall be placed before the priest, and the priest shall value him according to the means of the one who vowed. The priest shall value him. Now if it is an animal of the kind which men can present as an offering to the Lord, any such that one gives to the Lord shall be holy. He shall not replace it or exchange it, good for bad, or bad for good. Or if he does exchange the animal for animal, then both it and its substitute shall become holy. If however it is unclean, if however it is any unclean animal of the kind which men do not present as an offering to the Lord, then he shall place the animal before the priest, and the priest shall value it as either good or bad. As you, the priest, value it, so it shall be. But if he should ever wish to redeem it, then he shall add 1/5 of it to your valuation. Now if a man consecrates his house as holy to the Lord, then the priest shall value it as either good or bad. As the priest values it, so it shall stand. Yet if the one who consecrates it should wish to redeem his house, then he shall add 1/5 of your valuation price to it, so that it may be his. Again, if a man consecrates to the Lord part of the fields of his own property, then your valuation shall be proportionate to the seed needed for it, a homer of barley seed at 50 shekels of silver. If he consecrates his field as of the year of Jubilee, according to your valuation it shall stand. If he consecrates his field after the Jubilee, however, then the priest shall calculate the price for him proportionate to the years that are left until the year of Jubilee, and it shall be deducted from your valuation. And if the one who consecrates it should ever wish to redeem the field, then he shall add 1/5 of your valuation price to it, so that it may pass to him. Yet if he will not redeem the field, but has sold the field to another man, it may no longer be redeemed. And when it reverts in the Jubilee, the field shall be holy to the Lord, like a field set apart. It shall be for the priest as his property. Or if he consecrates to the Lord a field which he has bought, which is not a part of the field of his own property, then the priest shall calculate for him the amount of your valuation up to the year of Jubilee, and he shall on that day give your valuation as holy to the Lord. In the year of Jubilee, the field shall return to the one from whom he bought it, to whom the possession of the land belongs. Every valuation of yours, moreover, shall be after the shekel of the sanctuary. The shekel shall be 20 gerahs. However, a firstborn among animals, which as a firstborn belongs to the Lord, no man may consecrate it, whether ox or sheep. It is the Lord's. But if it is among the unclean animals, then he shall redeem it according to your valuation, and add to it 1/5 of it. And if it is not redeemed, then it shall be sold according to your valuation. Nevertheless, anything which a man sets apart to the Lord out of all that he has, of man or animal, or of the fields, or of his own property, shall not be sold or redeemed. Anything devoted to destruction is most holy to the Lord. No one who may have been set apart from among men shall be ransomed. He shall surely be put to death. Thus, all the tithe of the land, of the seed of the land, or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy to the Lord. If, therefore, a man wishes to redeem part of his tithe, he shall add to it 1/5 of it. And for every 10th of herd or flock, whatever passes under the rod, the 10th one shall be holy to the Lord. He is not to be concerned whether it is good or bad, nor shall he exchange it. For if he does exchange it, then both it and its substitute shall become holy. It shall not be redeemed. These are the commandments which the Lord commanded Moses for the sons of Israel at Mount Sinai.
Conclusion of each of the 5 books of the Torah, it's customary for the congregation to read Chazak, Chazak, then he's Hasek, which means this: be strong, and may we be strengthened. There is strength in the understanding of the word. Be strong, may we be strengthened. Streams of abundance. Say that God never brings calamity on a people. That it isn't God that does that. There's a reason things are called acts of God. And it's not just a misunderstanding of the grace of God. It's interesting at the end of Leviticus where he gives rewards for obedience in chapter 26. Verse 3, if you follow my decrees and are careful to obey my commands, I will send you rain in its season. And the ground will yield its crops, the trees of the field their fruit. Your threshing will continue until grape harvest, and the grape harvest will continue until planting, and you will eat all the food you want and live in safety in your land. I will grant peace in the land, and you will lie down, and no one will make you afraid. I will remove the savage beasts from the land, and the sword will not pass through your country. You will pursue your enemies, and they will fall by the sword before you. We love to quote the promises of God. Arise, Lord, and let your enemies be scattered. Any curse that comes against me, I reverse it, and in the name of Jesus, I declare it, go away, it be gone. We claim the blood over us. We claim all of these things. And there's truth in that, and there's an understanding in that that's really good. But some of the promises of God have conditions attached. And when we learn the conditions, we need to begin living by them. And he's made them clear. They're right here. Anybody can read. You know, in our day and age, there's very few people that cannot read. There are some. That's true. But for the most part, we have an educated society. People can read. In fact, in our country right now, we probably have more English translations of the Bible than any other book in existence. So there's a variety of translations. If you don't understand reading King James, then read the New International Version. If you don't understand the International Version, read the New American Standard Version. If you don't understand the New American Standard, read the New King James or the New American Standard or the New translations. Or go to the Message Bible if you really want it simplified. Just understand, if you go to some of the more simplified versions, you want to follow up and read other translations also, because like the Message Bible is a great way of understanding, bringing everything into modern understanding, into today's words. But there's some depth that they lose in simplifying it. So I would be very careful to make any doctrine out of what you read out of the Message Bible, because you want to verify that you're actually understanding what it really says. Because it lacks the depth, but there's beauty in it. The Word of God is here. We don't have an excuse, guys. You can listen to the radio, and on my radio right now, I have 5 different radio channels on my car that are Christian. 5 different ones in Klamath Falls. So you can listen to all music that's Christian music with an occasional verse read every day and encouraging words and that sort of thing. You can listen to other stations where they play many of the great preachers of the last few generations. I mean, you can still listen to J. Vernon McGee. I like J. Vernon McGee. I may not agree with everything he teaches, but he's fun to listen to. I love the fact that he's very literal. It's what the Bible says, folks. I'm not apologizing for it. That's what he says. It's in the book. That settles it, whether I believe it or not. The Bible says, if you will follow my decrees and obey my commands, then I will bless you. You want the blessing of God? Learn what the decrees are. Learn what his commands are. Follow them. Do them. God will bless. Verse 14. But if you will not listen to me and carry out these commands, if you reject my decrees and abhor my laws and fail to carry out my commands and so violate my covenant with you. God makes a covenant with us. We've been reading the covenant God made with the nation of Israel and the people of Israel. And this is all part of that covenant. This is covenant relationship. Yeshua made a covenant with his disciples. And his covenant said, love one another. He simplified it. In fact, it's really pretty simple. In Galatians, we have outlined for us 1 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians. It's right after Corinthians. So turn too far. In Galatians chapter 5, verse 16, it says, so I say, live by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the sinful nature. So his command to us is to live by the Spirit. If we will live by the Spirit, then he is going to show us how to live. Verse 22, the fruit of the Spirit. This is what the Spirit teaches us. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. If we would put these into effect and look at that, there's no law against anything you do out of love. If you do it out of real love. Love is not selfish. Love does not boast. Love is kind. Love is generous. Love is all these things that he's telling the people about in Leviticus. You know, love does not lord it over your brother if your brother goes broke. If something happens and he ends up without food or sustenance, love says, feed him. And if he says, well, let me mow your lawn for it, you can let him do that. But you don't want to say, oh, well, now that you've mowed the lawn, I want you to do this and this and this and this and this, and then I'll feed you. Treat them with fairness. These are the decrees of God. All of these laws in Leviticus about how to dwell in the land, about letting the land rest, is about trusting God, about treating each other well, about believing that when God says, if I'll do what he says, he will fulfill it. If you want to understand some things that are happening in our nation today, I suggest you listen to the teaching called The Harbinger by Jonathan Cahn. If you haven't heard it yet, look it up. And if you want, I think Tammy still has the books where you can read it, if that's easier for you to understand. Our nation, and please do not think that I'm telling you that the United States replaces Israel. We do not. Okay? But when our nation was founded, it was dedicated to God. Just like when they went into Israel, they dedicated it to God. This nation was founded by believers in Yahweh, Jehovah, God Almighty, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we dedicated this land to him. Read your history books, you can see it. On the day of the inauguration of George Washington, the first president of our country, by the way, they wanted him to be king and he refused. No, we don't want a king. You read the history. No, none of them were perfect. Did they understand the Bible the way we understand it today? Not a lot of them. Some of them were very definitely believers in Yeshua and Jesus Christ, the Messiah. Some of them were what are called deists. But they believed in a God. And they believed in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. However, that worked itself out. And they dedicated the land. They dedicated the country to God. And the day of his inauguration, they went into the National Chapel and they prayed. And they declared the nation under God. And God has blessed this nation, has he not? 1976. Do you? 200 years. 200 years our nation has walked in freedom and blessing. And yes, we've had some war. Yes, there's been some hard times, but they haven't been that big compared to what other countries have gone through. And if we want to look at it, you can see that when those things and those seasons and those times have come, there's been a falling away from faith, there's been a denial of the laws of God, and there's been need for revival in the land. It historically lines out. You can look it up, study it. Just like every time one of our Congress, our president makes a declaration against the nation of Israel, watch out. Because almost immediately there's a natural disaster on our country somewhere. It correlates, guys. Look it up. When we obey God, when we honor God, there is great blessing. But if we do not listen, we reject the decrees, abhor the laws, and fail to follow what he's taught us to do, then I will bring upon you. It says, then I will do this to you. Kind of like in the Exodus, he said, I myself, not a seraph, I myself, no other, I brought the plagues on Egypt. That's what he said. I myself delivered Israel. I myself. It's the same phrase here. I myself will bring upon you sudden terror. I myself will bring upon you wasting disease. Read it. I myself. If after all this you will not listen to me, I will punish you for your sins 7 times over. I will break down your stubborn pride, make the sky above you like iron and the ground beneath you like bronze. The Great Depression that happened in this nation, the sky above was like iron. The ground below became like bronze, and the great dust bowl happened. And there had been a falling away prior to that. Guys, I read this and I'm going, okay, I see it happening all around me. I see it, don't you? And I cannot honestly say that it's an act of nature, not an act of God. Does God bring calamity on his people? This part of the book says he does. When his people willfully, defiantly disobey him, he'll get your attention. Now the word does say it's his goodness that brings us to redemption. Why is that? Is it because everything he does to bring you to redemption is good? No, but it's because he loves you so much that he will correct you. His goodness to you is going to bring correction to you. It's because of his love. It's not because of his anger. Although when we love deeply, that's when we can get the most angry with someone. Did you know that? The opposite of love is not hatred. Because if you're angry, if you feel that kind of deep emotion to somebody, then there was a connection, and that's a response to the connection. The opposite of love is not hatred, it's apathy. I don't care what you do. I don't care about you at all, so I don't care what you do. Honestly, that's the opposite of love. I think that's part of why God says that he doesn't want us to be lukewarm. Because truly, that's the opposite of love. To be so at that place that we just don't care. I don't care one way or the other. Hey, if you do well, cool. If you don't do well, cool. Love says, I care about you. And I care enough about you that if I see something happening to you or with you or in you, I will help you. I will correct you if necessary sometimes. That's not easy, is it? But we do for our children, don't we? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? But not with judgment, not with anger, not with this place of giving up. Seven times. And with each judgment, and here's the difference. Here's the difference between the destruction of the enemy and the judgment of God. Every single judgment says, if you'll change, if you will turn to me, if you will turn to me, I'll shift it. If you will turn to me, I will shift it. Even in judgment, there is a promise. If we will turn to him, we'll shift it. It says, if you do not accept the correction. That implies if you do accept the correction and turn to him, we stop it. It stops. If in spite of this you will not listen to me but continue to be hostile to me. So that means if we do listen, if we do turn to him, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then will I turn from heaven. The promise of the land. The promise of fruitfulness in the land does depend on our obedience to what he's taught us to do. Do we want fruitfulness in our land? We need to understand what he asks us to do. Ancient Israel did not listen. It followed through. It went completely through all of these judgments. Each one of these things happened in Israel. Each one, even the place where it says you will eat your own children. I can't fathom getting to that point of desperation. I can't. But several years ago I couldn't fathom or understand, and I still don't really understand, the desperation of a young woman who will have an abortion and kill the child that God has placed within them, however that child has come. I don't understand that, guys. But it happens all around us. It's become commonplace. It's accepted. Is this pregnancy inconvenient? Did not like the guy anymore? What, was this not a good situation? Is it going to shortcut your career? Oh, is it a girl and you want a boy, or is it a boy and you want a girl? Although technically they're not supposed to do abortions for that. Technically they're not supposed to do late-term abortions either in many places, and yet it's done. I don't understand that level of desperation, because to me it's a life. So I don't understand it. I don't understand killing your own child to eat. But what's the difference between killing the child in the womb and killing the child that's just been born? Or killing the child that's a little bit farther on? And if you want to read a list of hateful, ugly things that have been said, just read anything Margaret Sanger wrote. The woman who founded Planned Parenthood. That woman was full of hatred and bigotry. A large family that doesn't have money, the most convenient, the most, what was it? I'm trying to remember the word she used. But it boils down to this: the most compassionate thing you can do for that child that gets born into that large family that doesn't have good means is to kill the child. So the child does not have to live within poverty. We need to get rid of the earth of I can't even bear to repeat some of the things that she has written. There's a reason they don't quote her a lot. Because her purpose was to destroy what she considered subhuman people. As if those two could even go together. God says we treat each other with love. God says if we'll listen to what he says to do, he will bless us. I really believe that this nation is coming more and more and more and more and more under this hand of judgment of God. I really believe that. And for those who say, oh, well, God doesn't send the hurricanes and wipe out a whole city. Yes, he does. It says so right here. The Bible says it, I believe it. And even if I didn't believe it, it says it. That makes it truth. He says, I myself will do this. Boy, does that fly in the face of our grace and mercy gospel, doesn't it? I myself will do this. As I say to my grandson when he's arguing with his mother at a bath, or going to bed, or whatever it is he wants to argue, look, if you don't do what you're told, I will come over and I will pick you up and I will put you in your room. I will pick you up and take you in the bathtub and I'll drop you in there, clothes and all. I don't care. I will do it. And then we follow through. He's beginning to learn that when Grandma says, look, I will do this, he's learning to do what he's supposed to do. God has said, I will do these things if you don't do what I've told you to do. Straighten up. Jonathan Cahn does a great example in his book and teaching about how the sabbatical years line up with the Dow Jones dropping and with the Great Depression and with all of these, the equalization of economy. God never intended for there to be a very wealthy and a very poor. He never intended that. You can see it in the understanding of the sabbatical year and of the year of Jubilee. The year of Jubilee resets everything, guys. There was never supposed to be a very wealthy and a very poor. It doesn't belong in the kingdom. God never set it up that way. Our nation is not supposed to be like that, like any other nation. Nations who do not adhere to this fall. The United States has lasted longer than any other great empire in terms of prosperity and blessing of God. But we are going the same way as all the other empires have gone. Violating the laws of God. Turning our back on what he has said. Calling evil good and good evil. Asking God to bless Planned Parenthood? How do you do that? How can God bless an organization whose purpose, whose very purpose is to kill the children that God gives us? How do you ask God to bless that? But our president did that this last week in a speech that he made. God bless Planned Parenthood. How? Here's the way I want God to bless Planned Parenthood. With a revelation of God. We can't pray blessing. God, reveal yourself to the people that are running that organization. Reveal yourself to the doctors and the nurses and the staff and those that are destroying our babies. Reveal yourself in whatever way you need to. Whether that's with your heavy hand or with your heart of love, I don't care. Whatever it takes, begin to reveal yourself. Whatever it takes. God says we are to give of ourselves to him. We are to dedicate. We are to give over to him. There's a place where it talks about when you enter the land that I will give you, to dwell there. But then he also says, but you're sojourners here. So there's a balance to be understood. Yes, God gives us the land, but guess who owns it really? It's still God. Everything I have, God has given to me. And if I will hold on to it really tightly, then that's what I'm going to have. What he gave me. And sometimes when you hold real tight and you squeeze real tight, then what you want to be holding on to goes out between your fingers and kind of goes away, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Whereas if he gives it to us and we open it up and we say, God, thank you, I know it's yours. And we open our hand more, thank you, I know it's yours. And we give back to him that which he wants us to give. Then that which he gives us grows. If we'll hold too tightly, we can't get more. But if we will open up, he will give us more. If we will follow his commands, if we will do what he wants us to do, he will bless us. And if we find ourselves in that generation of judgment falling around us, which I believe we are there, I may not be able to affect the way God responds to our nation, but I can affect how he responds to me. And if I will affect how he responds to me, that will affect the person next to me. Maybe they will learn and they will respond. And if they will respond, then the next will respond. And if we could get enough of us to respond, then the nation is turned. I believe God offers redemption always to the nations. I know he has brought Israel back into the land. And I know that, I've had a couple people just in the last week ask me, so is this the year of Jubilee for Israel? No. Why not? Because they don't know when to start the count. They haven't started counting yet, guys. I suggest they figure it out soon, because they are the land that God has required all of this of. Everything that was listed here has happened. All of the destruction, all of the judgment, all of that has done. All of it is done. And the promises of God are being rekindled for him, bringing them back. The Hofstra portion is out of Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 19. It begins, O Lord, my strength, my fortress, my refuge in time of distress. To you the nations will come from the ends of the earth and say, our fathers possessed nothing but false gods, worthless idols that did them no good. Do men make their own gods? Yes, but they are not gods. Therefore I will teach them. This time I will teach them my power and might. Then they will know that my name is the Lord. My name is Yahweh, the one who is, the one who was, the one who is to come. Even in a season of distress, which God does bring upon the earth, if we will turn to him, he will teach us. If we will turn to him, he will teach us, and he will give us of his power and of his might, and we will know that he is God. Father, that we would know that you are God, that we will turn to you, that we will look to you for our blessings, but that we will not be spoiled children who demand the blessing when we're not being obedient to you. Father, that we would become obedient children, that we would appreciate the blessings you give us, so that you do not need to correct us with harsh judgment. Father, help us learn. You are a king. You are our king. You are worthy of our honor. You are worthy of our praise. You are worthy of our obedience. It is your right. And that we as your sons, when we act in obedience and we act in your authority, then we have right. But if we do not act in authority, if we do not act in obedience, and we try to act from our own authority, then we have no rights. Because the rights are yours, and the right is yours. Help us learn from your word. Help us learn from the mistakes of Israel us turn to you before it's too late. Help us turn to you and lessen the calamities. Even as we pray, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Hear, O nation, the United States. Hear, O church of this generation. Hear, people of God. The Lord our God is one, and he is calling us to repentance. He is calling us to right relationship, and he is calling us to walk in the fruit of the Spirit, not the desires of our flesh. Teach us, Lord. Let us be willing to submit to you